Here's part 3 of the lesson 5 notes. So we've talked about the different types of sampling methods. We talked about bias sampling. So, get non-response under coverage. You can create either overestimate or underestimate of our indication of the population. The last thing we're going to talk about is biased questions. So questions are flawed in a way that leads to inaccurate results. So let's talk about what are the different ways that we can see this. Okay. Once again, if you need to pause the video to write this information down, make sure you do that. So let's talk about response bias. So a pattern of inaccurate responses. So wording. So the wording of the question could pressure someone to answer in a certain way. Okay. So, and then we have maybe it's too sensitive to answer truthfully. So just kind of like maybe you lie, like in the last example 6, when we talked about the kids polling that 90% of them actually do their homework. Well, some of them could be lying about that because maybe they're too sensitive or being pressured to kind of answer it a certain way because they don't want to get in trouble. Maybe there's not enough information to give accurate opinions. This is a lot of times like if people are trying to ask about a certain law or information and they just say, hey, what do you think about this? But they don't give you background information. Yeah, that's going to be kind of hard unless you know what that law is. It may be difficult to actually give an honest opinion about it. And then answer to please the questioner. So that was another thing when in our last problem, question 6, where once again, the students could be trying to please the administrators, saying, yes, I do homework every single night. So we have that, okay? So those are kind of some of the different response bias that we can get here. Okay, so now let's go ahead and try some examples to figure out, okay, what could be the bias in the questioning and or the sampling. Okay, let's look at number 7. It says, Boy Scout Peter M. wants to know the proportion of people in his neighborhood who support the Boy Scouts. He takes a random sample of 30 homes and visits them dressed in his uniform. Okay, first go ahead and pause the video and answer, what is wrong with this survey? Okay, let's see what you wrote. Now, once again, when we actually are doing this, your answer does not need to be exactly like mine, but you should have similar ideas of what we're having here. Well, I do notice, and we're going off of being biased questions, I do notice that the Boy Scout is being in their uniform. So what could happen is that being in the uniform could influence people's decisions or answering the question. So that could be something. So they're trying to, maybe the people are going to be pleasing the questioner, because it would kind of be seeming bad if you talk about or whatever they're asking here in their survey, maybe being negative. Okay. Once again, also people may lie. That's kind of to please the questioner. So they say, yes, I am supporting, even though they may not. Okay. So now B says, do you think Peter will over or underestimate the true proportion of his neighbors who support the Boy Scouts, and why? Okay, pause the video and answer this question. Okay, I really think it's going to be an overestimate, because if Peter is in his uniform, a lot of people are going to say, yes, I support you. But there could be some people that do not support the Boy Scouts here. So a reason that could be an overestimate, once again, for these, and this is also earlier when we did our bias sampling, when I'm writing down maybe the explanation, it does not need to be exactly the same as what I'm writing, but it should be on the lines of what we have here. So people may say they support them when they actually don't. Okay, let's look at our next example. We have question 8. So a reporter asked parents, do you agree with the school board's proposal for new technology in our schools? Okay, what is wrong with this question? Okay, go ahead and pause the video and kind of write down your jots. What do you think is wrong with this question? Okay, so remember here that we are only worried about what is wrong with the question. So this is where you need to be careful when you guys are reading the problem. Sometimes they may ask, okay, what is wrong with the sampling method or how they got their sample? They may ask what is wrong with the question. So make sure when they ask you something like that, you're pertaining to that. So like if they're asking us what's wrong with the question, I don't care right now for like how did they get this sample? I'm just worried about what's wrong with this question. Well, okay, so let's see about this, right? So, in order to probably give your opinion, you probably should know, well, what is the school board's proposal? So, notice here they do not lay that out. They don't give that maybe preference ahead of time and then ask this. So, this could be where, people may not know the proposal and cannot give their honest opinion. Okay. So basically, make sure that if this occurs, what we need to do is they do need to make sure they state probably the proposal in like a neutral language so then people are able to give their opinion. So yeah, I didn't ask for this, but this is just a little information that you may need. So need to state the proposal in neutral language. So what I mean by neutral language is making sure that the audience understands what the proposal is saying. Okay, let's get 9. So it says a dentist asks patients, do you brush your teeth twice a day and floss every day? Okay, so what is wrong with this survey? Go ahead and pause the video and jot down what are your notes on what is wrong with this survey. Okay. So one thing I did notice there's two questions here, twice a day and floss every day. Well, it could be where you do brush your teeth twice a day, but you don't floss every day. So it may be hard to answer this question with a yes or no because maybe part of it's true, but part of it is not. So one thing is you have our two questions. So we may need to separate the questions here. Okay. Now, another thing is because the dentist is asking, this can go back to our bias questions. People may not respond truthfully. So how can we fix this? Well, I guess this need to separate questions, that could be actually a fix or how it can be corrected to the survey. So probably what's wrong with the survey is that you have basically two ideas in the same question that it would be hard to answer. So one way to we could correct this is to need to separate the questions. Do you brush your teeth twice a day? Do you floss every day? That'll be a lot easier to say yes or no. Okay. Now, what else is people not responding truthfully? Well, let's see what we can do so maybe they do feel a bit more comfortable to honest. One thing is we could probably create a survey that is anonymous. Okay. Okay. Or maybe another thing is have someone else ask the question. So maybe not the dentist, and maybe not even the dentist assistant. Maybe just, someone at the front desk that can do it. So one thing that we look at here is that, when we think about our surveys and questions, okay, one, the question could be biased, as we talked about. But another thing we can say is, and you may want to write this down because this kind of is leading to what we did with number 9, the question itself may not be biased. Now, in question 9, it kind of was because with the 2 parts there, but the question may not be biased, but the question could lead to bias or introduce. And so what they mean by that is, once again, with the people, like you don't feel comfortable in answering truthfully. The person is kind of leading the person on. Your question could be awesome. Like it gives you everything, but it's maybe how it is asked or who is asking. And that could introduce bias in there. Okay, make sure if you have any questions, just let me know so you can go through email, come before or after school, or during API. I'll see you guys later.